So let's move on, and I would like to present Veli-Pekka Tynkkynen. He's the professor in Russian environmental studies from the University of Helsinki, and we asked him also for a perspective on the crisis. So please.
Good morning.
And you are a professor in Russian environmental studies at the University of Helsinki, and you also lived in Russia for a long time.
Yes, I did during the 70s, actually, in the Soviet Union, and lived in Moscow and went to the Soviet kindergarten. So know quite much about Russian culture and society.
Fantastic. So looking at the situation today, natural resources and politics, how is it connected in Russia today?
It is very much connected. If you look at Russia's economy during the last 20 years, the importance and role of oil and gas, fossil energy has increased a lot. And actually, I see that the fact that fossil energy and the economies, but also networks of power related to oil and gas actually are part of the problem that we see today in Ukraine. So ability to centralize power via the materialities and economies of oil and gas has made it more easy for Putin regime first to centralize power in Russia and increase violence within the borders of Russia, and later on, as we've seen already a decade, outside Russian borders. And this is, I don't explain that oil and gas is the reason why there is a war in Ukraine, but I argue that actually it is more easy because of the economies and basically geographies of oil and gas to have this violence that we see today in Ukraine.
How can we in the Nordics understand this situation right now?
Well, I think what it is at stake in Ukraine and in general, I mean, geopolitical situation facing the globe at the moment, we have to remember that it's not only a war about Ukraine's independence, but it's a wider confrontation and conflict between authoritarian Russia and authoritarian world, basically, vis-a-vis democratic and free world, basically. So the war has to be understood in this way. And of course, the Nordic countries have a long tradition in civil society, strong democracy, welfare society. These issues we need to communicate towards Europe that these are the things that we value. These are the issues that are important for Europe as a whole, and that way try to build a common European understanding that what is at stake in Ukraine is actually has to do very much with our future as a democratic and free actually space.
So this will delay the green transformation in Europe due to the war in Ukraine? Would you say that?
Well, of course, we don't know yet how it will evolve, but if we have more and more of this kind of fear within Europe that we cannot make ambitious climate policy decisions because of fear of inflation, that will postpone energy transition. And this is exactly what Putin's Russia wants to do. They want to give an extra time for fossil energy. This is also their objective, and this has to be understood and communicated to European citizens and politicians. And the longer we postpone these important decisions, the longer we will be dependent on Putin's gas, for example. So in that sense, it's highly important. But as I said, important is also to buffer against the negative impacts of inflation in Russia, in Europe, in a sense that the least off people, the poorest people in Europe, are not the ones who will be paying proportionally too much for this inflation that we will anyway have. So it's about taxation, about subsidies to vulnerable groups and so forth. And I think this is highly important in that sense, that if you look at what has been Putin's Russia's objective is to conquer and divide, to build alliances in Europe, especially with the far right and populist parties, to break the European unified Europe. And in this situation, if we let the prices and inflation to impact the least of people, we will see more and more populist parties, more and more populist kind of sentiment in Europe, which will be a kind of very negative, will have a negative effect on European unity. So in that sense, I mean, this taxation policy, but also this communication vis-a-vis European citizens, that what it is at stake here is highly important.
If you could just give, my last question, one recommendation to Ursula von der Leyen in this situation right now, what is that?
Try to get rid of Russian fossil energy as soon as possible, build a resilient system to kind of protect the least of people in Europe, for not to kind of put fuel to the flames to the populist sentiment in Europe that will kind of devastate Europe. So that's highly important.
Thank you so much, Veli-Pekka Tynkkynen, for this interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.